What's up, Chiefs Kingdom, and everybody else involved? You're here with your boy JP, Tommy, and Quentin. Chiefs Focus Live. We got a bunch of crap to talk about. We got a little game show going on. Once we get some people in here listening, we're going to see if they can. We're going to pick two random people to join the show. And those two random people that join the show, they're going to go through a little bit of a battle. And we'll see who wins. How you guys doing?
Well, the Royals are winning at the moment. So at the moment, I'm doing all right. I got 4-1 lead. We'll see how long that's that they've held that lead for 1 inning exactly. So I've been happy for about 1 inning of baseball.
Well, they haven't won a game yet. No, they've won one, right?
They've won 3. Come on, man. Don't
be like that. Man. You just jinxed them, Q. You jinxed them, bro. You know better. Don't ever talk about it with the Royals. Let them be. And then if we get a win, we celebrate after the final pitch. That's the only way you can do it.
When I was there, we were the farm team for the rest of Major League. So that's just what we were, man. Anybody that was good got picked up by somebody else because we didn't have the money.
Let's see. What's the longest? Johnny Damon.
Oh, I can go back.
See.
Johnny Damon got picked up quick. You know, I mean, that was like quick.
Yep. What's my guy who used to play for the Astros a couple years back? Played center field for us. Beltran.
Carlos Beltran,
yeah. Carlos Beltran, yeah.
I mean, it's sad, man. It's sad. It
is. You know. The only people we were able to keep back in the 80s and 90s were the guys that actually like to live in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. I mean, it just is what it is. That's who hung out. That's who stayed.
Well, Bo Jackson's then, I would argue, was more competitive because that was before big cable contracts, big TV contracts.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was baseball, and this is why we've seen the NFL change so much since the 90s is because of TV contracts. TV contracts change sports, cable TV contracts. Obviously, you could watch sporting events beforehand, but it was getting these large cable conglomerates to sign hundreds of $1 million worth of deals. And in baseball, you've got regional sports networks, which are dying out. But regional sports networks is what ended up paying for a lot of these smaller market teams like the Royals. You would sign with a local affiliate or a company that owned a bunch of rights to a ton of other teams in the area. And, you know, once you have TV markets like the Yankees and the Dodgers, you know, getting paid for their market size and then comparing it to a place like Kansas City, that's where that split off. So it started to become uncompetitive in the 90s, which is where, in my opinion, football has been so good to the NFL and the overall fan is that, you know, the reason that there is so much parity is because of the salary cap and the way that the money is broken up, where it's truly every team gets its own, or every team gets the same amount of money for the most part, right? There are ways, signing bonuses and stuff, that sort of comes out of the owner's pocket, but there are, you know, restrictions. It's a hard cap, so it helps alleviate a lot of that pressure.
Well, we got Corey popping up today, and he's gonna battle real quick. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Just think about this though: the Yankees' TV contract is enough to pay their entire payroll. Just think about that for a second. Tell me that ain't fair.
Hey, let me tell you what ain't fair. I'm talking about it. I'm sorry, I had to tell a guy something. What ain't fair is when I was there our entire team salary cap, salary I should say, wasn't a cap, was $41 million. And that included managers, coaches, players, everybody, brother. $41 million.
That's sad.
And you had the Yankees that were paying one guy $41 million. And I'm like, how the fuck? How does this even come on fucking TV? And then you got a blackout. I'm like, how the fuck does a Royals game get blacked out in Kansas City?
Dude, the blackout rules, I'm so happy that they got rid of the blackout rules in the NFL. The fact that the MLB still has these stupid, dumb restrictions on where you can watch games is so stupid. Because if people want to find your product, you should be able to find it. It shouldn't be that difficult. So, which is why...
Bro, they blacked us out for the fucking Golden Girls.
Yeah. That's why the NFL is so good. Because if, even if you don't have cable TV, you can still watch your team. A local channel will pick it up. Now, you may have to search for it, right? It can be on, some of it will be on the local Fox affiliate or whatever. So you got to flip through the channels a little bit. But as long as you have a TV with an antenna, you could watch the Chiefs.
Yeah. You could, if you had it, that's what you had back then. I mean, cable was a thing, back in the, it was prevalent, in the early 90s, but, late 80s, early 90s. But a lot of people didn't have it. A lot of people were still stuck. We had 4, 5, 9, 41, 62. Those were the 5 channels that most people had, especially older people. When they heard about the cable box, and they were like, "What? I ain't paying $22 a month for TV. You can kiss my ass." They never dreamed in a million years.
With the little click buttons on it.
Yeah, man. I mean, people were like, "Hell no, I ain't paying that." I remember my dad. He said, "We got those 5 channels." Yeah, we do, Dad. But you could have an extra 15 if you get cable. Well, if they ain't showing my shit, I don't care. Well, that's great, Dad. I'm glad you're happy. So, kind of is what it is. But I don't know, man. It's pretty insane to think the Royals are winning right now. I'm happy about that. But let's talk about
added 2 more runs, so it's now 6-1.
Wait, who are we playing?
Maybe
Rangers.
The Rangers.
Oh, okay. Is this like their 5th starter? They just kind of throw a guy out there to eat innings or something? Because our offense is bad, really bad. I've been a lifelong Royals fan, and I have never seen our offense as bad as it's been the first 11 games of the season. Sad.
I swear. It's crazy to think that every 30 years the Royals go to the World Series. And if you look at it, it's every 30 years. I missed my window, but
23 more years, baby.
Yeah. I missed my window, but hey, I got to play with a historic team for a little bit.
That's what we got. We got to wait one more me, and then we'll be back in the World Series. It'll be great.
Yeah. So by the time your beard is graying down to your nuts, you'll be seeing a World Series again.
Life goals, really.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
All right, let's talk a little
Chiefs.
Yeah. So are we on here for Chiefs?
Yeah.
Hey, we're a sports content thing. We can talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. Anyway, all right, let's move on.
Okay, so one of the topics I wanted to talk about today was, and we sort of hit on this yesterday, was we talked about how there's a lot of conversations happening about the draft and how a lot of the wide receivers are no longer being talked about as potential first rounders. And the report came out that there were a lot of former and a lot of actual teams that have said that they only have one wide receiver rated as a first round pick. And I said that we need to talk about the tight ends because especially here in Kansas City, we know the power of having a great tight end and that they truly can be your number 1 receiver. And this is a very deep tight end class.
Yes, it is.
I think we need to talk more about the tight ends because I don't think we've shown them enough love this offseason because there are a couple of guys that truly are, have the potential to be number 1 wide receiver kind of production guys.
I'm just going to throw in Kincaid. Just felt like throwing that in there. Is what it is.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid is from Utah. I
love that kid.
A clear pick for that number.
What about Tucker Kraft? What do you guys know about Tucker Kraft? I've been reading a little bit up on him, and he seems like he's a really athletic tight end. I think I want to say he's out of like South Dakota somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, he's out of South Dakota State. And I think he's ranked like at an 84.
I don't know a lot about him.
See, my thing is, I'm thinking this way. I'm thinking that Mayer, Washington, and Kincaid could possibly be gone by the time they get to us. And this is why, because if you think about right now, if you don't, what Q was saying, if you don't have that legit number one, first round wide receiver, the next best thing is get you a tight end, quarterback's best friend, right? So why not take the best tight ends off the board? And that's what I'm worried about. And so I really like the kid out of Georgia, but I like him because of his rawness, right? His physical ability. He's a big, tall, strong kid. You watch him hurdle, the Missouri player. I mean, he's got some tools. He's got some tools, man. And I think that in a system where he can come in and not have to be the man, but learn from one of the best, and then learn that system and kind of be put into a role, a very specific small role, then he can build over the next 2 or 3 years. And then if you can get that kind of results from a guy who's got that type of talent and potential, then you could be looking at the successor for Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
I agree.
Darnell Washington is the guy from Georgia you're talking about. I mean, he's like 6'7", just a large human being, right? And at a tight end position, that's kind of what you want, right? I know Kansas City doesn't run a lot of these sort of just go up and get it jump balls. But when you're running over the middle of the field, and size is such an advantage, right? Especially because it puts you in that spot to where defenses have to think, do we put a safety on him because he's so athletic that a safety can cover him, but a safety's not big enough? Do we put a linebacker on him because the linebacker's big enough to cover him, but the linebacker's just simply, not athletic enough to cover him man-to-man? So putting a team in that predicament is always going to give you an advantage on the offense. And if you give Andy Reid, a guy, he's going to be able to use him. And you're right in the sense that no matter what tight end Kansas City ends up drafting, he doesn't have to be and he won't be the guy. I mean, it took Travis Kelce a few years to get going, right? He didn't just show up. I mean, he was injured his first year, right? So he didn't show up and be the Travis Kelce we know in today. It took him a while to get going. So
it took Tony Gonzalez a while too. So
it's not a position that you just see a ton of guys show up and just play. I think that if you have a Darnell Washington, right, he's probably a late second round, a third round pick. I mean, if he's there, instead of getting a tight end instead of reaching for a wide receiver, go ahead and snag you a guy that has the potential to become, I don't like saying the next Travis Kelce because, it's Travis Kelce is on an island of his own, right? He's by himself on that island, but to have
he bought an island.
The next number one tight end in Kansas City, right? To continue that legacy of great tight ends, I think is something that if you're able to develop a Darnell Washington, that's possible. I could see that.
Well, here's the thing. If you look at Corey seems to think he got me turned on to Kincaid. Actually, you mentioned Kincaid, but I'd already seen Kincaid. But I'll give you that. If you want to have that, you can have it. I'll give it to you. See, he put that up in the chat. He says he's got me hooked on Kincaid. I'll go ahead and give you that one if you want it. What I like about Kincaid is that he mimicked his game after Travis Kelce. He mimics his movements. He's got wiggle. He's got speed. He's got great hands, and he can block like a motherfucker. He can block. So, I mean, if you can play that position, as long as he doesn't come out like a George Kittle or a Gronk and wants to hit everything that's, in front of him, like brick walls and cars and buses and shit, I'm okay. Because Gronk, look at him, man. His brains are scrambled eggs. We can't control that. That happened to him because of how he played. Kittle's been on the bench for 5 years, basically, at some point. Two of the last 5 years he didn't play. Maybe one game. So you have to be a guy that is gonna be that wide receiver, tight end. You know, that Travis has changed the game. Everybody says Tony Gonzalez changed the game, which I'm not going to say he didn't. He did change the tight end game in the 90s, early 2000s, because he was an ex-all-star, basketball player that could have went to the NBA, easily went to the NBA. He just decided on football, which is fine. But he had great hands. He figured, you know what, if I'm going to play it, I'm going to play it my way. And that's what he said, and that's what he did. It took him a while to catch on to the NFL ways, especially Marty's ways. But he got it down. And when he did, he was a force. I mean, absolute force. Kelce, on the other hand, is really the one that converted the tight end position. He is the master of the chip block because he realized that you don't have to put somebody on their back and give yourself a concussion to get a wide receiver past down his route or past a defensive player. He chip blocks. He gives him that quarter to half a second or to a second to let the wide receiver get around. Any wide receiver can get around with an extra second. That's all you need. So Kelce's mastered that. Everybody says he can't block. It's not that he can't block. Why would you? If you're smart enough to be able to stop a defender from catching, whether it's your running back or your wide receiver or a different tight end, another tight end, and let them pick up another 15-yard yak on a chip block versus putting them on their back and standing up and going, ooh, and all that stupid shit, and not and taking and really shortening your career. Why not move that? That shit's intelligence. That's all that is intelligence.
I think you've been seeing too that load management has been something that the Chiefs have really been focusing on with Kelce over the last couple of years. And if you think about it in regards to this first-year receivers or first-year tight ends coming into the system, they usually don't do a whole bunch, and I think it has a lot to do with the complexity of the offense, right? I think what Coach Reed does is he breaks certain, groups of plays down for this specific player, and they have only so many that they can run. And I think that has a lot to do with building confidence more than ability, because you coming into an NFL, especially in an offense kind of like what Kansas City runs, it can be overwhelming. And the last thing you want a kid to do, which is what Sky Moore was doing early in the season, he was thinking and not playing. And that's the worst thing you can do on the field, because that's how you get hurt and that's how you make mistakes. And so I think going into this draft and thinking about receiver, you really, it'd be different, like I said, if it was a Marvin Harrison Jr., someone like that in the first round, then you would, I think, contemplate moving up to get them. But if you think that right now that there is no receiver out there that's worth that type of, compensation, then you definitely go tight end. And if you do go tight end, I think you pick the best athlete that you have out there, because, again, that person doesn't have to come in and start. Like, literally, they can come in and pretty much do 25 catches this year and still be impactful enough that they can help a team win the Super Bowl, but not be so much or not have so much on top of them that they become insufficient in what they can do, if that makes sense. And I'm hoping too that if we do something like that, that just gives Mahomes more weapons to spread the ball around. And what I've seen, like I said, this last podcast, is that he is more dangerous when he doesn't have that Tyreek Hill to always go to, or when he doesn't have just Travis to go to, and they double team Travis because he has to look around the field. And when you look around the field, it's kind of like passing basketball around the perimeter. The more you move that ball, the more openings that you'll find. The more that we have to look around and spread the ball, the more opportunities is going to open up from Mahomes. And that's what I think is going to be the most important thing going into this year, because just like the previous years, NFL teams study the Kansas City Chiefs offense. They know what they're doing. They're breaking it down. So every route that they're running, there's a guy out there like us that's getting paid to do it, breaking down every single play of the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's going to be going off of or trying to find ways to counter everything they do, especially the goal line passes in the Super Bowl. You can pretty much chalk that one up. We probably won't see that play again towards the end of the year next year. But you got to think in this nature, every time we think that the Chiefs are figured out by the NFL, Andy Reid and the office comes up with something a little bit different, some different players, some different
That's that
plays.
innovator we got. That's that innovator. That's the guy that changes with the times. Hey, let's do a real quick commercial break, and we'll get right back to this.
Underdog Fantasy is here to save your post-fantasy football season blues. The easiest place to play and win with the Underdog Fantasy app. Get up to 20 times your money in a single night with our Pick'em contests. Grab some insurance when setting your picks and win even when one pick fails. Go online now and use the promo code ChiefsFocus to double your deposit up to $100. Sit gingerbread, good girl.
All right, guys, make sure you check out Underdog. Real quick, I agree with everything you guys said, and I think with Andy being the innovator and the guy that changes he changes with the times, which you don't expect a 63 or 64-year-old head coach that's been in the league that long to change with the times the way he does. And it pisses people off because, you got 39, 40-year-old coaches out there that still play early 2000s football. They still coach that way. Andy just changes with he watches everything, and he changes with everything that comes along. And I think that's the best attribute, one of the best attributes he has, is the fact that he's never complacent. When you're complacent, you fall apart. And the fact that we are a true spread offense, which you just alluded to, is something that makes us special that most people really don't have that ability to do. They've yet to do that. One thing Corey Chiefs Talk on the Rock said is that you need to have it, and most teams don't do it, but you have to have a team that's willing to utilize a tight end correctly. A tight end, especially of a Travis Kelce, caliber. You got a couple guys in the league right now that could have been a better tight end than what they've been over the years. I mean, honestly, Darren Waller could have been a better tight end. George Kittle could actually be a better tight end. Problem is that their team, Kittle is just nuts. I love that guy. He's fucking crazy. I love everything about him because he makes me laugh. The dude's just funny. He does some insane shit. But he's got that I want to hit everything mentality, and he said it day one, and he still says it today, and he's 30 years old. 29, going to be 30. Then you got like Mark Andrews that goes out there and plays. Yes, he's had his injuries, but yet he's smart enough not to get himself killed. And he knows age progression in the NFL is a lot faster. It's kind of like dog years. For every year you play in the NFL, you might as well add 7 to it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing real hard. So
Andrews is a big dude too, man.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
I still to this day rank him second in the league as tight ends.
Yeah.
And I feel I see what he's got and I see what he can do. And I think he's, barring his injuries, he would have a lot better number, especially if he played for a team that actually had a quarterback that threw the ball for the last 4 years. But he's just for 1 year, he was his go-to guy, especially after they dumped Hollywood Brown. He was their go-to guy. So you got all these teams out there and I think that's why you're seeing such a progression into the younger coaching, the younger head coaches, especially over the last 4 or 5 years. You're seeing all these younger head coaches pop in because they're trying to get rid of the guys that have that old school mentality, that old man mentality, that let's, it's smash mouth football, kick them in the teeth, stomp on their hands, Mike Ditka, all that bullshit. You can't do that in today's game. It's different, man. It's just not the same. Harbaugh has that problem. Yeah. Harbaugh's a defensive-minded coach.
I think Reed has a little bit of that, but I think Reed's a perfect mix of it because if you hear the players talk about, every player that comes to Kansas City that's not washed up and doesn't play because they're washed up loves Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell you in the next sentence that he runs the hardest spring practices or training camps that they've ever been through. That's old school mentality because a lot of these people don't even hit anymore because they're so worried about injuries and they don't really do 2-a-days anymore, for health concerns, which I understand. But if you look at today and with today's athletes, I hate to tell people this, but these athletes are coddled. You know what I'm saying? It's a different world.
Absolutely.
A completely different world. But if you listen to the players that come out and speak about Andy Reid, they said that's why we have so much success in the beginning of the season because we're in shape. We're physically fit. We're ready. We've been doing situational football since we stepped on camp. or stepped in camp, and that is something that I think is unique because what you're saying, JP, is that old school mentality, like the Dick Buckets and stuff, that is gone to the wayside because there's a lot of elements to it, player rights and all kind of stuff. But I think the essence of it, to be able to have some of those formalities that you're still pursuing in your practices, I think that gains respect of the players because I think players want a coach that's a player's coach, but they also want somebody that's a leader that's going to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And I think they get that in Coach Reid.
I agree with you. Corey said, if healthy and if you trust the Chiefs medical staff, Becton is next to Trey Smith would be a dominant right side of the line. Well, first of all, if you don't trust the Chiefs medical staff, get off my show. I'm just saying it now. I trust every bit of the medical staff. I don't care what that, all the ex-players that didn't play for us in 21 said. We have a great medical staff, and it's been proven because players that have played for other teams that were injury prone came here and those injuries kind of went away. When we do have injuries, if you look at the time frame where most guys are out 6 to 8 weeks or the full season, our guys aren't. You cut that in half. So we've got a great medical staff. I'm not complaining. It's probably one of the best in the league. So you can hear the guys that bitched about, they didn't get picked back up by Kansas City from the 2021 season complain about the medical staff and they grade him at a D or whatever. Who cares? I mean, where are they at right now? Probably in the tub.
Look at Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins should be the biggest, example of what the Chiefs training staff can do. The guy stayed all off season in Kansas City and had the best season of his career and will be the best season of his career, period. He will never have those numbers. He will never perform like that again.
No, never. Absolutely not. Let's get some of these. See what Philip says. Andy needs to use the 13 offense personnel more this season. By adding 2 additional tight ends, this creates some advantages and angles for the blockers up front against the variety of defensive fronts. I agree.
The Chiefs were already top 5 in the NFL with double tight end personnel.
They were. I think he should do a 3 tight end.
I think that my early guess is that Blake Bell or Jody Fortson is not on this roster. One of those two doesn't make
Blake Bell
after camp.
I'm going to say Blake Bell right now.
Yeah, because right now you've got 4, Kelsey, Gray, Bell, and Jody Fortson on the roster right now.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs will, I feel very confident that the Chiefs will draft a tight end just because of how deep it is. I mean, the odds are one of these guys that we think is a second-round talent will slide to the 3rd or 4th round. That's just how the draft works, right?
Yeah.
So one of these guys will get picked up. I know one of the guys that won't slide all that much is that Michael Mayer from Notre Dame.
I don't like his name. It scares the shit out of me.
I like him. I think that he could be a guy that could be picked up. And if you want them to pick up a pass catcher in the first round, I think he's realistic to have in the first round. The Chiefs are not getting Dalton Kincaid. That's not happening. No way are you trading up to the early teens to draft a tight end. That's just not happening.
But if you're listening to all the mock drafts, if you're listening to Bucky and you're listening to what's his name? What's that other dude's name? DJ Alexander, BJ, Bougie Doos. I don't know what his name is. His mock draft changes every time he changes his underwear. If you listen to those guys, the first 4 guys are going to be all quarterbacks. The next 4 guys are going to be all wide receivers. Then you're going to have a bunch of O-line guys go. Then you're going to have a bunch of D-line guys go. Who knows? The way they're talking, the tight ends will be in the 6th round. But again, they change their mock draft all the time, so it really don't matter.
Well, think about it. If Blake Bell is going to be gone next year, and Washington is the guy to replace him, because isn't Blake Bell our blocking tight end / slip out the backfield a little bit and catch a pass? I mean, so you need to replace that. And what easier role would that be for a rookie coming in to that one of his best skill sets is blocking, to slide right into that? I think it's a perfect fit. And this is why, because if he's in for the majority of the blocking and 3 and tight end sets, then guess what? He's probably not going to be looked upon as a priority pass catcher. And so then maybe he has more opportunity because he's not the number 1, 2, or 3 option. He's probably the last option. So I think you got to replace that because I think when Blake Bell was gone, we actually struggled with the run game a lot. And I think that at some point in time, besides getting, some tackles that can really give you a push, you got to have a tight end that can get in the trenches, man. You just can't continue to run, out of, single back sets and this, with 5 linemen. Because, I mean, good defenses will stop it eventually. I mean, that's just how it is in the NFL. You have freak athletes on the other side of the ball. So they're going to adapt to what you do. And if you go back the last 2 years and look at when we struggle, man, when did we struggle? 3rd and 1, 3rd and short.
Oh, gosh.
That's when-
It's so crazy how you were the best by far 3rd and long team in the NFL. And yet, if we're being honest with ourselves, the Chiefs sucked at 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. It's crazy that's the way the Chiefs offense was. And I do think that if you get a better secondary pass catcher, not that Noah Gray was bad by any means, but I just don't know if there was that trust. There just definitely seemed to be a reason why he wasn't put out there all that much. I do think Corey put down that Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely what I would call a flyer or a guy that's like, he's really athletic. Let's see what he got, right? Because it's not from this top school, so it's hard to say, like, was he successful because of the lack of talent opposing him? Is it truly because he's a freak athlete and he was able to just use his athleticism, right? That's one of those guys where if he goes, mid-round pick and you end up getting him here in Kansas City, he's the perfect guy to be able to sit behind Travis Kelce, get him a few snaps, try to teach him how to be an NFL tight end. That's the perfect, I'm just going to try and mold you into the next great thing because we have time to develop you. I think that's a pick that I would see Kansas City making. But we also just have to be realistic with ourselves that, the Chiefs are not getting any player, any top player at any of the positions that we want. That's just not going to happen because we're picking at 31.
Do you see Zach Kuntz's measurables, man? He is 6'7", 255 pounds and runs a 4.5, 540.
Yeah, he's an athletic freak. I mean, he's crazy, and that's what
That's
I mean
nuts.
by when you look at this draft in terms of the tight end, right? There's a ton of guys that, I mean, and a lot of other drafts, you would say that that's probably the best tight end to come out that year. This is that point where we're seeing the backlog of the COVID year, right? That's one of the things. You had a ton of guys, waited out another year during the COVID time, which is why, college basketball was so weird this year, right? You had the San Diego State had an older average age than the Oklahoma City Thunder. Right there, the college team was older than the Thunder because of the COVID year. And you had guys that stayed out and were allowed to play another year. It's the same thing with football. You've got some of these guys that were just waiting out another year, and there's a backlog of talent in the tight end position this year, along with the defensive line. There's just a bunch of stacked talent there. Benefits Kansas City because while there's not a ton of blue chip players coming out of this draft, there's a lot of solid guys that I would call in that B tier kind of player.
Okay, so here, I'll tell you what something put up real quick. I got to tell you this really quick. So Darius Slay puts out, we don't have a wide receiver 2. And it says, who's the best wide receiver 2 in the league? And number 85 from the Bengals. I don't know why I don't know what this is all about, but people are saying that T. Higgins is way better than everybody's wide receiver 1. It's a big kind of a game. And then this guy says, I have to tell you, it's kind of funny because I had to giggle a little. It says, where did he put it at? He says, the Eagles and the Bengals are the same, but also opposite. Okay.
Right.
Moron. Anyway, they say both have 2 guys that are and can be number 1 guys on most teams. Only opposite is that AJ equals T and Devontae equals Jamar in terms of physical size and play styles, but pretty much the same. The Super Bowl we were robbed of. So I replied, but you just don't have a Patrick Mahomes or a one-legged Patrick Mahomes. You didn't get robbed of shit. You ain't got neither one of those dudes. Because neither one of your quarterbacks match up to Mahomes one leg. If that was the case, one of you fools would have been in the Super Bowl and won it. The Eagles lost. The Bengals wasn't in there. Simple. But anyway, had to bring that up because it's kind of comical to me. I think the Chiefs.
Dude, they're going to struggle when they lose. They're going to lose one of those receivers, Cincinnati.
Absolutely, they got the money to keep them all. Yeah, they got the money to keep all them, and they're going to keep Chase. Look, man, they're going to keep Chase.
I would keep Chase.
Yeah.
How old is Higgins? Yeah, Chase is number one. He's the best receiver they got. How old is Higgins though?
He, I think, is 26, 27 maybe.
So he's still young. He's still pretty young, and this is. He's going to. Isn't this the last year of his contract?
I think so. They were actually talking about trading him.
I mean, he's very much like a Tyler Lockett to me, right? Sort of that fringe one, really good as a two. To me, they're a lot like a Juju Smith-Schuster, where when they're not the number one guy, they excel, right? When they're not getting all of the attention from the defense, because Juju wasn't the number one wide receiver here. It was Travis Kelce. Right, he wasn't the number one pass catcher. It was Travis Kelce. So, when you get guys like that, sort of that fringe number one, look, the way you succeed in the NFL in 2022, 2023, and here on out, just get as many weapons as you can around your quarterback and go from there. Right,
and hope you can beat Mahomes.
Right, that you just need to stack up. You just need to stack your lineup and see what happens, because the way the rules are set up, the way the NFL is today, it's a pass-heavy league in a, where you can't hit the quarterback and you can't make a ton of contact with the wide receiver when they're running their routes. So why not just invest in your receiver rooms and just try and generate as much offense as possible? And I think that's a smart way to do it. That's what the Dolphins are doing. That's what the Seahawks are doing, right? Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, these sort of guys, just add offense and continue to do it. So,
but you also have to have – here's the difference, though, man. When you look at Cincinnati, it's a great example. Even the Dolphins, especially the Dolphins right now with the condition that Tua is in, you have to have an offensive line. You could have
you got to have offense. You got to have a team around him, right?
The money that's coming in from you see how much money – offensive line guys are drawing right now, certain offensive line guys. Hell, even freaking tackles are. But if you're bringing in that kind of money on an offensive line, if you don't have a quarterback and a coach that can utilize a mid-tier wide receiver, you can bring in 25 of them, and it ain't going to do you any good if you don't have an offensive line. So I look at like Miami. How long? I mean, we could take a poll on how long Tua is going to last this season. I mean, that could be your next poll. Honestly, I mean, it's terrible, but it's true. It's he's a fragile dude. He's made of glass.
Look at all your smaller quarterbacks, though, JP. All your smaller quarterbacks got hurt last year, and that's what's going to happen.
It's why I'm out on Bryce Young. It's why I don't think Bryce Young is going to be a starting quality quarterback in the NFL, because
I think he's going to be a bust.
It has nothing to do with his talent, I believe. I mean, his college production and his college play shows that he can run an effective offense and that he can read the field. It's simply the fact that physics is against him. When you are that small, and I don't think you've heard my rant here on this, Tommy. So if anybody who's heard my rant, you're going to hear it again. I do not believe he weighed that much when he did his weigh-in at the draft. I believe
they're all that lie.
I bet he weighs like 180 at best, 185. And I'll tell you why. When my brother was in the Marines, my older brother is much, much skinnier than me. He's always been smaller than me. He's a little shorter than me, but he's just kind of small. When he was in the Marines, he had to make weigh-ins because according to them, he was undersized. I mean, but he was just lean. So what he did in order to make his weigh-ins is before he would go to do his weigh-ins, he would drink a gallon of water. He would just drink a shit ton of water, and then he would go and get on the scale. I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that Bryce Young did in order to break that 200-pound mark, just so he could say that, hey, look, I'm over 200 pounds. I bet he actually plays an NFL game at like $185.
Here. Philip said, "Don't be surprised since he doesn't draft Kincaid." Here's my opinion, and Chiefs. Corey did say this last week, and so did we. they will draft him because they're trying to match what we have. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Cincy's doing. They're trying to be Kansas City. They're not going to be, but they're trying to be. I mean, there's low market teams and there's Cincinnati. So you got to look at it from that perspective, and if you put the scale, it kind of just, but I think what you're going to see, this is my opinion, if the Chiefs, I want the Chiefs to leapfrog Cincinnati no matter what, whether it's for an offensive player or if it's for Kincaid. I'd like to see him get an extra first-round pick and leapfrog and take both those mothers because I don't want Cincinnati to get anyone because they're arrogant, and I want them to go away. And the more Burrow gets sacked, the happier I am. I'm sorry, I don't want to see a guy get injured, but you know what? If he gets knocked down on his ass a few times and gets up dizzy, it's not going to hurt my feelings. It just won't.
Well, what is this? This is Burrow's third year? Or did he just finish his third year?
Just finished his third year. His first year he was out. Second year he went to the AFC Championship. No, this is his fourth year. Right?
So this
His first year he was completely out with his knee. Second year he went to the playoffs. Was it went to the playoffs. Third year went to the AFC Championship game. Oh no, this is his third year.
Yeah,
he just finished his third year. Yeah,
third year. Okay. So,
but my thing is, they can't keep everybody they got. So they're not somebody. I think they're going to regress. They think they did something by picking up OBJ. They just got him more sacks and a hell of a lot more pressures. I'm sorry. I like OBJ. I think he got a raw deal in Kansas City in certain ways. I think he'd be a better right tackle. He definitely was a better right tackle. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't allow a single sack in college playing right tackle. Didn't allow a single sack in four seasons in college. It's pretty damn strong.
Ohio State, man, that dude.
Yeah. But again, he switched sides. He was protecting. Now, I will give him this. He is protecting a quarterback that's pretty conventional compared to Mahomes. And that's helpful because when you're protecting more of a conventional quarterback, you don't have to worry so much about where he's going to be and have an eye in the back of your head wondering if he's coming behind you, if he's, rolling out, if he's, whatever he may be doing, because Mahomes is all over the damn place. He's calmed it down a little bit this year. As we've seen, his game completely changed, and he still put up more numbers than anybody, but with less talent for the most part, except for Travis Kelce and a bunch of rookies. But he did it. He's able to adapt. And he's not arrogant, and he's humble enough to be able to change, where Joe Burrow is not. Josh Allen is not. Those guys have a chip on their shoulder the size of a boulder, and they feel like they deserve everything. And until you get to that level, you don't deserve everything. I give all the props in the world for Joe Burrow making it to a Super Bowl over us with the refs helping him out. He admitted it himself, so I'm not afraid to say it. The refs helped him out. He knew it. They knew it. Everybody knew it. That's okay. They won by 3 points. He got there. He lost. Deservingly lost. When you got a guy like Aaron Donald that solidified that game at the end of that Super Bowl. He solidified that Super Bowl. That proves to you that if you don't have a good offensive line, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. Especially with the quarterback. Look, I'll just put it this way. Joe Burrow's pretty quick. He's not a slow guy. He's not huge. He's an athlete. He's an athletic guy. He's got speed. He's got some moves. But he's still the highest sack quarterback 2 seasons running.
Yeah.
With being one of the fastest to get the ball out of his hands.
Exactly. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah, it's like Russell Wilson. A lot of Russell Wilson sacks are on him because he's running around trying to make stuff happen and he's holding on the ball really long. Like sacks,
running in slow motion and shit.
Yeah, sacks are generally a quarterback sack or a quarterback stat as much as it is a stat on the offensive line because the quarterback has an influence of whether or not he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Just depending on how quickly they're able to get the ball out of their hands, whether they're running play act. Like, there's a lot of factors into whether a guy gets sacked or not. Joe Burrow, he's getting the ball out of his hands like one of the fastest in the NFL. He was only behind Tom Brady. who was hiking the ball and just shoving it to somebody.
Yeah.
So
well, when you're throwing the ball a half a yard, you can get rid of it pretty quick.
Yeah. So this has been a problem all throughout his career, right? He blew his knee out in his rookie year because he was getting sacked. So this has been a problem.
So it's 3 years straight. I'm sorry, not 2 years straight, but 3 years straight. The highest.
Yeah, he just didn't play the full season to be one of the top sack guys because he blew his knee out. So this has been a problem his entire career up to this point. The Cincinnati Bengals have not been able to build a quality line around him, despite the fact that they've, been able to get the ball out of their hands quicker. And a guy like Jamar Chase, it's not a 50-50 ball to a guy like him. It's like a 80-20 ball to him just because of his size. And the guy can climb the ladder to get a ball. So
he's the best offensive pass interference guy in the league.
Yeah. Oh, man. That dude's the push-off king, man. That dude is the push-off king.
When you're able to get the ball out of your hands quickly, you have guys you can throw the ball to, and you're confident that they're going to be able to pull the ball down, and you're still getting sacked a shit ton, that is on your offensive line.
Damn right.
Yeah,
and
it's bad. They're bad.
And he's right. Tommy's right. Look, man, no matter what you say, that first year with Chase, bro, he didn't get one call for pushing off. Not one. And man, his arm, this motherfucker would shove somebody into the stands and it'd be okay.
Dude, you know how he's mastered this? If you watch him, and he's good at it, like I give him his props because he's good at it. What he does is he keeps his hands about waist high instead of being up in the chest, and he will push them off on the waist. If you're watching, and so he's got full extension. I'm like, dude, how's that not pass interference? I think it's because the visual of it is not, because when you think of pass interference, you're thinking shoulder pads, arm push off. He's pushing off down low. So I'm like, what the hell is going on with that? Like, how has nobody figured that out? But here's another thing, too, is like, why have none of the other coaches turned it into the league and be like, hey, we think this is pass interference? Because obviously nobody's catching that if this guy's been doing it for 2 years now.
Yeah, exactly. Look what Corey said. He said, I'm going to be nasty here. Joe Burrow is Derek Carr without the eyeliner.
I do not endorse that.
I'm going to say this. At least Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl.
Corey crazy, bro.
I'll give him that. At least I'll give him the ding because it was funny. But I will say this. Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl. Whether it was legitimate or not, he got there. I will give him that.
He's good. He's good.
He's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not. I just don't.
Quarterback in the league.
Yeah. What?
Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the league.
He is. I'll give you that. I will actually say that because I don't think anybody else would be able to get to the level that he got. Well, and let's put this into perspective. Hold up a minute. I'm gonna push back just a tad. Just a tad.
Are you gonna put me in a position where I have to?
I want you to explain. I want you to tell me. Yes, I do actually. I am going to. I'm going to do it. And this should be something that we do with these fans that are supposed to show up and do this challenge, but everybody's sissies and scared to get on screen. So here's the thing: if you take strength of schedule into consideration, all right, and that is my biggest pet peeve with any kind of stat in football. If you take strength of schedule into the consideration of Joe Burrow's game and Joe Burrow's winning percentage versus the defenses he went up against, would he still be the second quarterback if he had a top 5 hardest schedule in the league? Top 5, like we were the first. In fact, the Kansas City Chiefs last year had the toughest schedule the first 9 games of the season. Period, hands down. Then Then they said, "Oh, well, it got a little easier in the back end." It actually didn't. There was a couple of games that were pretty tough in the back end. Now, if you give Joe Burrow the first, second, third toughest schedule in the league, which he hasn't had since he's been in the league, he had the Tom Brady role. Tom Brady go to a Super Bowl next year, had the 29th easiest schedule in the league. How the fuck did that ever happen? How did that man get away with that kind of shit? I have yet to figure it out because it's Tom Brady. That's why. Because it's TB12. Let me give you a little cash. Give me that easy schedule. But anyway, take that into consideration and think about all the quarterbacks that are in the league right now that had tougher schedules. I will say the Eagles had a tougher schedule than Cincinnati had last year for the most part. Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback.
Yeah,
I think he's a better quarterback.
He's
He's
dual
more
threat.
mobile, and he's learned to throw.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that Joe Burrow has, even though it's not that much longer, right? He does have a little bit longer of success, like a track there in terms of his success. And
Well, he might have a little up the window.
Faster by far.
like, okay, if we're being honest, Jalen Hurts has done it 1 year. So it's just hard for me to say. It's hard for me to put him as the second best quarterback in the league when Joe Burrow has done it 2 years in a row. And even before he blew his knee out his rookie year, he was good.
Hold up.
So it's hard for me to put a guy who's been good 1 year when I know that and on the also, we talk about the Eagles where, the Eagles did have the best offense and defensive line in football, right? So I see the struggles that happen in Cincinnati and he's still that good. It's easier for me to say that Joe Burrow's the second best quarterback in the league because there's a little bit longer of a track record and the fact that, that offensive line is so bad and they still put up that production. Meanwhile, the Eagles have the best offensive line. So I don't think that you can say Jalen Hurts is the second best quarterback yet. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Jalen Hurts hater.
It sounds like you are.
I do think that Jalen Hurts is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I would probably take Hurts over Allen, but
I would too.
I don't think that you can put him at number 2 yet, just because Joe Burrow is a good quarterback. It is a better quarterback.
He's a better.
Sidebar.
His 10-1. I looked. It was 6. Who hit a home run? But
let me see something here. So here you go. They had 2021, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals, I'm sorry, had the 28th easiest schedule in the league. Well, 28th hardest out of 32 teams. Okay. In 2022, he had the 26th easiest schedule out of 32 teams. Kansas City in 2020, the 11th hardest. 2021, the 8th hardest. 2022, hardest. And we went up against so many tough ass defenses last year that they didn't have to go up against. Look at their division and how bad it's fallen apart. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry, but their division sucks.
Who are we talking about? The Bengals?
The Bengals. Their division's not that damn good, man.
AFC North is not an easy division.
It's not a hard division either.
I mean,
the Pittsburgh Steelers that fell apart.
The Ravens, who, they're not the best team. They're not what they were a few years ago, but they're still one of the better teams. You're not going to roll over the Bengals
or
the Ravens. And, the Browns are the Browns, so I'm not going to push back all that much here. It's still a division.
My point is, it's kind of like how Brady was during his tenure with New England until Buffalo got better.
The worst division in all of football. In the
worst division of all of football. And you get 6.
We were calling the NFC East the NFC least because none of the teams had a winning record.
Well, it's true. I'm talking about AFC.
Don't come at me and say, well, the AFC North is an easy division. I don't want to hear it. It was literally the NFC least.
I'm talking about, if you look at what Tom Brady had for 20.
Why are we talking about Brady? I don't give a shit about Brady.
I'm talking about the division. I'm talking about the division. Listen, you got to let a motherfucker finish. If you're on a situation that you got 6 wins given to you, okay, every year you're guaranteed 6 wins, no matter what. The only team that had their damn number to a degree was Miami, and
in
Miami only, and that was very few wins. So if you're in a division that, you got a better quarterback and a better head coach, there's more, I guess, I don't know if you can even say he's better, if he's better at like scheming than the Ravens.
That defense,
the Browns
I'm telling you, that defense has a lot to do with the Bengals and their success. Like, people don't give that defense enough because, okay, if you're in the NFL and you got some offensive weapons and your line is crappy, you still can put up points. But the problem is you can't always stop. And look at the thing that kept the Chiefs out the Super Bowl in 2018. Our defense couldn't stop anything. But the difference is that defense in Cincinnati It's not a lot of great players, but there's a whole bunch of damn good players, and they play sound fundamental football. And that's why, if you look at some of the close games that Cincinnati won, it wasn't because of the offense. It's because the defense kept them in it long enough so that they can score again. And that's the difference between Cincinnati right now in regards to Joe Burrow and his success, because I believe what you said is true. I believe a very easy schedule is going to give you a better opportunity to get to the playoffs and seed higher. I also think, too, though, that if your defense is halfway decent and you have the offensive efficiency to score some points and be able to do it on a consistent basis, then you're prime playoff team and ready to go make a run for it. And that's what he's kind of fallen into. A lot of times people will criticize Patrick Mahomes because, he came into the league with all these weapons and stuff. He did. But the reason why the man had to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns because he had to outscore
defense. Yeah. When you
you know
who he was? I tell you what, man, he was the Kurt Warner. He was the Kurt Warner of 2000. Kurt Warner had to put up 50 points a game to win because their defense was so damn bad. So, and look, I like what Corey said here. He said, here's my thing. You give any QB like Fields, Carr, or a mid-tier quarterback, give them Chase and Higgins, Hayden Hurst, Mixon, and all those guys. They're going to put up the same stats as Burrow, and I absolutely agree with that.
No,
I agree with that. And I agree with that assessment.
The Bengals defender. Oh,
look here.
God.
Look here. Mitch Trubisky is putting up 4K with those weapons. Hold on. Now that one there. That one there. Look, man. I'm sorry. Hold up. That one ain't that good, Corey. I agree with the comic. It was a good comic relief thing, but Trubisky sucks.
Trevor Lawrence does have the potential to be up there. I got no problem with that comment, but we're gonna swipe away that Mitch Trubisky comment. I don't want to hear his name.
Well, not too many people do. I think he's like on a practice squad somewhere. I'm not real sure, but
hey, the Bears could have had Patrick Mahomes and they picked Mitch Trubisky. Think about that.
You know what? I actually do agree with something that's put up here. Look here. This is what I agree with. In 2 years, I don't even give it 2 years. I give it 1 year. Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback than Burrow.
I hope not.
I already believe that. And it wouldn't hurt my feelings. Then? You know what, though? Here's the thing.
Putting him at 4th?
Look, here's the thing. I don't care if he's better because he's still not Mahomes. I don't like Burrow. I don't like Burrow. I don't like the man. I don't like his attitude. He dresses like a pimp from 1978. I do not like that man. And that cigar shit's – where's it at? That cigar shit, with the sunglasses, pissed me off after that AFC Championship game. That did me in with that fool. Then Philip, he agrees on Trevor Lawrence as well. I agree. Trevor Lawrence had a terrible first year because of the head coach that he had. A terrible NFL head coach.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to, tomorrow on our show, we are all going to make a top 10 quarterback list, and we're going to spend the hour just talking about top 10 quarterbacks because y'all are pissing me off with your horrible quarterback takes. Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback. You know what I'm happy we haven't done? I'm happy nobody in the chat has been like, well, Patrick, I'm happy we're moving past that. Okay? We got Patrick Mahomes, so I'm happy we all got that. Then we got
Here we go again.
Joe Burrow. Yes. We got Joe Burrow. Okay. Now, if you want to go between 3, 4, and 5, I got no beef there. All right.
Let's do this real quick. Hold up. Let me do one thing. Let me do this commercial. We'll be right back, folks. We got to get this conversation.
Good. I got to cool off.
Yeah, you got to go get a drink or something. Your blood pressure's all high. Your face is red. There's shit going on.
Jeez, man.
I can't even tell if you got flags behind you anymore. Hold up a minute.
Underdog Fantasy is here to save your post-fantasy football season blues. The easiest place to play and win with the Underdog Fantasy app. Get up to 20 times your money in a single night with our Pick'em contests. Grab some insurance when setting your picks and win even when one pick fails. Go online now and use the promo code ChiefsFocus to double your deposit up to $100. Sit gingerbread, good girl.
All right, guys, we're back. Let me see who's in the chat here. We got somebody in the chat. Let me see what you're saying. Brad Henson. Burrow is the second best.
Good job, Brad. I'm proud of you. That's a good take. I got one on my side.
Brad.
Oh no, I told you Burrow's the second best. I agree with you on that.
All right,
I think that
Good, JP.
I think that Hurts is in between like second and third. And the reason why is because I think his ability to run and throw down. Because 2 years ago he couldn't throw. They said he went to some camp and
No, he couldn't throw.
So yeah, but he's better now, and that has a lot to do with the weapons too. But also too, his ability as a leader, as a dual threat quarterback, and now he can pass, puts him into that upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL. It just does. I mean, Burrow, yeah, I don't like the attitude either. But if you talk about, just look what Burrow's done with the passing yards, with the success he's had so early, and then also beating Patrick Mahomes has added mystique to his legacy, right? But the thing is, at the end of the day, the reason why, and even announcers on the big networks will tell you, the reason why that he cannot pass Patrick Mahomes anytime soon is because of those Super Bowl rings, those MVPs that he has, and that he's just a better overall quarterback than Joe Burrow. So I don't have a problem with putting Burrow second, but I think it goes Mahomes, it goes Burrow second, but I think like 2A and 2B, you got a couple quarterbacks they're right in that echelon. I think that also that what's the guy in Buffalo? I think he's going to regress because I think he's taking too much of a beating, just like Lamar is. He's taking too much of a beating. I think that some of his weapons are going to start to fall apart around him. I don't think he's going to have the support. Josh Allen. Yeah, I think he's going to regress this year, which is sad though, because I think put with the right coach and the right system. That's another problem too. They have a defensive-minded coach up in Buffalo, which is fine with me because we can keep winning. But I think Josh Allen has the potential to be the number 2 quarterback in the league just because he's freaking like 6'4", like 250, bro. He can run like a 4-5
for it. You don't have the mindset for it.
Well, but see, it's just like the guy. What's the quarterback in New England? Mac Jones. You can't look what they gave him as an offensive quarterback or offensive coordinator. Why do you think the man regressed?
Well,
because you gave him a defensive coach to be his offensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guy carries a
the
guy carries a pencil with an iPad.
Yeah, he carries. Look, I can't trust a dude that has a pencil when you have a laminated piece of paper in front of you. Okay,
yeah.
You've made a poor life decision. I inherently don't trust you.
Yeah, and here's my thing on look, all this conversation about Burrow being too,
You see what Brad said? The gap between Burrow.
I mean, that's Burrow on the field. That's what I think about that. But it is what it is. Everybody's going to have their favorites. I don't have a favorite when it comes to Joe Burrow because I can't stand the man. And I got pictures. I'll put them on the next show. I got pictures of Joe Burrow. It's sad, but I do. What's we say? What we got going on here? Brad said what now?
He said the gap between
Mahomes and Burrow is a grand canyon. You know what? Hold on.
On that.
You know what? You're absolutely correct. I mean, there's that, and then there you go. I mean, you deserve it. I think the gap. There's so many different ways you can spin this shit when it comes to a quarterback versus another quarterback, or who's best, who's worst, who's this, who's that. You could do all that all day long, but okay. I'm gonna go back to Tom Brady for 1 second, and only one reason only.
Q.
When he left. Well, let me see. When he was separated from New England, I'm gonna leave it at that because the truth be known, he didn't want Belichick.
Spit out your bad takes so I can tell you how wrong you are.
There ain't no bad damn take. Let me ask you something. If you were able to go to the 49ers, okay, you had the option. The 49ers, the Chargers, or the Bucks. The 3 teams. If you're confident in your own damn game and you're confident in how great you are, and you had the opportunity between any of those 3 teams, and you picked the Bucks again, at the time, the worst division in the NFC, that was just horrid, and you surround the man with every weapon. The Bucks already had a solid D, and they already had a couple of good weapons. Then you add in AB, you add in Gronk, you add in other guys. Hell yeah, he's going to look like a king. Hell yes. And then you still give him one of the weakest schedules in football, 29th weakest or 29th strongest, however you want to put it, out of 32 teams. You're going to look good when you're playing bad football teams. It's going to make your stats look better. No matter how you want to swing it, that's what happens. Your stats go up because you're playing against worse defenses. I don't know if I'm wrong about that, but I mean, if I'm playing a bad defense and I'm a quarterback and I can burn Eli Apple all day long, or I can burn Marcus Peters all day long because he's the Ole King. He's got that bull fighter towel out there, and when somebody's coming at him, he just go ahead. He don't want to get tackled. He don't want to get hit. That's why we didn't want him anymore. That and his attitude. You can't compare when you have horrible head coaches, you're playing against terrible defenses, and then you expect to say, okay, well, this guy's number 2 in the league. Well, how do you rank that? How can you absolutely, I mean, in a realistic mindset, how can you rank a quarterback based upon anything other than strength of schedule, especially defensive strength of schedule? It just kind of is what it is. I mean, the Eagles had it very easy this past season. They really did. They had it
What
easy.
was their schedule strength? What was their schedule strength? Their strength of schedule.
I think it was 24th, 25th. Might have been higher.
I mean, the fact that they're playing in the NFC should tell you right away that they had an easier schedule because there's no, they didn't have a ton of great quarterback play out of the NFC
Points
just in general, right? And that's going to be a problem moving forward. The NFC is just they need some new young quarterbacks in there because there's just not a lot of great quarterback play coming out of the NFC. But to count, let me say this, JP, I apologize.
Counter away.
I apologize. Your take is not that bad. It's not the worst thing I've heard tonight.
It better not have been.
So
it makes damn good sense.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: if you're put in that position, you should. I mean, it would be stupid to put yourself in a position to where, to put yourself in a worse position to win when you have the opportunity to go in and have a team built around you. Go give yourself the best position to win. So I'm not taking that away from anybody for making that decision. I will say at the time, Tampa was a better choice just because he did have more control there. But if he would have went to, and the division was easier, which is probably a bigger factor why he went there and
it was.
Not the 49ers. But yeah, I'm not gonna throw shade at him for making that decision. It was a good decision on his part and won him a
Well, it made him look better. He was already made to look good by a top 5 defense for 20 years. And the times that he did lose, whether it be in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, if you look at those and you go back and look at the stats, their defense wasn't even ranked top 15. If you're ranked top 5, 10 through your career in defenses, you don't need the best weapons. I mean, the guy won almost all of his games off of defensive play.
Wait. So the year they had Moss, their defense, they had Rodney Harrison in the backfield. They were in the top 15 defense. I don't know. I'm just asking.
They only had one. Well, they had a few good players, but they still weren't top 10. They weren't top 15.
Okay.
So if you look at, and when they had Randy Moss, their defense was terrible. I mean, it wasn't great. It was, again, same time frame. So it wasn't the greatest. When you got the Giants that not only beat you once but twice, and they just happen to get you when your defenses are struggling, there's something up. Now, Corey brought up, he said that's why Burrow can't beat Cleveland. Cleveland dominates Cincinnati in every game because Burrow can't read pressures and they can't score over 20 points against Cleveland. That's actually true because if you think about it, Cleveland has one of the better defenses of football. They just got a horrible, I guess I should say, not just organization, but they've had a horrible run with head coaches and a GM that sucked, a.k.a., John Dorsey. So
is he still there?
No, hell no. I told Caleb when we brought his ass in, when they brought him in, I told Caleb, give him a year, he's done. In a year, he was done. When you put that many egos in one room together, you're destined for failure. And that's exactly what he did. You're destined for failure. And then you got a shitty head coach on top of that. Yeah, so you bring a shitty head coach in and 5 big-ass egos, you're destined for failure. So it just is what it is. I agree with Corey on that one. I think that, Burrow has had it easy. I mean, he really kind of has. And a lot of quarterbacks get it that way.
No. I'm not saying no. I'm not going to say he had it easy when you have the worst offensive line in football for multiple years in a row. I understand he has great weapons on the outside and that he's had some good running backs coming in play. But I'm not going to say that he has it easy when you have two of the better teams in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, who, while they haven't been dominant over the last 5 years, they've still been really good. Okay, both those teams have solid defenses. And you have one of the worst offensive lines in football. So I'm not going to say he has it easy.
Easy.
No. No.
He's got that button from Staples.
Hey, but, I mean, there's variables that you can't control because every season, the schedule comes out. And the great thing about the NFL is that,
it's on a rotation.
It's a rotation.
It is. There are very few games that are actually selected. So the most games are on a rotation to where,
we're every 4 years or something.
Every 4 years you face a different, and even the new game that they added is on a rotation. So
okay.
The schedules are very predetermined. It's just trying to figure out at this point when you're going to play. But who is already predetermined because it's on a rotation.
And you got a great point there, Quentin, because
I know.
Okay, I'm not going to say you got a great point. You do have a great point because if you think about it, every 4 years you're playing a different division. It just happened to be the luck of the draw, I guess, for Brady, because again, it seemed like every 4 years he was playing a pretty shitty division, and the times that he didn't win the Super Bowl. He didn't make the Super Bowl. So it just kind of fell into his play. It kind of seems like that's – well, we haven't seen what's going to happen with Burrow yet. We don't know. Look, man, if Jacksonville, which I absolutely predict they're going to come out and be a hell of a lot better football team this year than they were last year, and look how far they got. If anything, Trevor Lawrence learned a whole lot just watching the Chiefs play football. They got a head coach that is Andy Reid-minded. He knows how to coach. He knows how to win a Super Bowl. He knows how to win a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback that's just fucking weird. And then he's a weird motherfucker. I'm sorry, but Nick Foles is weird, man. He's in that Flower Child, Woodstock, weird talking shit. The stars aligned and all that shit. But anyway, I think you're going to see the Jaguars are going to be a better football team this year than Cincinnati is. That's my hot take. Whether it be cold to you, it's hot to me, and I think they're going to be a better football team. Look, man, they came back with a vengeance, and they played harder teams in the last half of their schedule, and they whipped ass. And they put it up on us. I mean, it wasn't like they were, we were like leading them by 24 points and it was some easy ride. It was a little difficult there at the beginning, even when Mahomes got hurt, and thank God Henne came in and, what was it, 98-yard touchdown, drive. But honestly, I mean, you're talking about a team that has a great head coach, a great quarterback that's just going to get better. And he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. At first, when I saw Trevor Lawrence step into the league, I thought, oh, fuck, this guy thinks he's Fabio. Look at that.
Sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, this dude's coming in here with his hair all flight,
he needs an Old Spice or something.
He really does. He needs an Old Spice.
Some brand.
He does have some commercial with the hair product. I've seen it before. But dude, his maturation is big for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And
it's amazing what happens when you get a real head coach and not literally the worst head coach in all of it.
Damn right. Hell yeah. I mean,
why does he keep getting jobs? Is my whole thing. Like, why do people keep hiring him? Like, it makes no sense. Like, he's going off his success in college, yes.
Yeah. But we've talked
about this. Every college program he's been in, he's left a trail of just freaking craziness behind him. Every single school he's been, it's been like that.
Yeah, I know. And it's so weird because we've talked about this so many times that there's there's not very many college tenured head coaches that can step into the league and be an NFL coach. It just can't happen.
Mhm.
We've seen it happen. I mean, a lot of guys have come and went right back to college. It's weird because the speed's different, the rules are different. They don't know how to coach in the NFL with their way of rules, speed, play, everything that's concerned.
Bro, he's
Then-
the Rick Pitino of football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, you had a couple, like Pete Carroll was a college coach that came in, went back out, came back in. He's a good head coach. He's lasted a long time in the NFL. Marv
He's like
Levy was,
28 years old.
yeah, going back at Dayton a while. Marv Levy was a college coach that wasn't that great in the NFL at first, came back and became a good head coach. That happens, but you very rarely see. Look at Kingsbury. Where's he at? Back in college. And he's a quarterback coach. He's not even a head coach. He's a
Nick
quarterback
Saban.
coach in college. Yeah. It happens too often that these college quarterbacks or these college coaches want to come in and think they can do it, make less money, have more stress, and look like shit, and then end up back in college making more money and be a success story. That's why you got life head coaches in the NFL, in college, because they make more money, they're more successful. It just is what it is. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with what was his damn name in Jacksonville? Can't think of his name right now. The one that came in for a year and shit himself.
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. In fact, I remember
yeah.
a press conference he did. It was actually kind of comical because he did this press conference and they asked him point blank, are you going to leave? And it was about, 5-6 games into the season, something like that. And he put his head down. He would not look at the reporters, wouldn't look at the camera, wouldn't look at nothing. I don't really give up on anything. I'm not going anywhere unless they push me out the door, I guess. And then he had the worst season ever, but he wouldn't look at because I know he was contemplating, shit, should I get the hell out of here? Because I look terrible.
Allegedly kicked a kicker and allegedly got grinded up on at a bar.
Yeah.
Now I seen that video. It was actually on TV. I was like, this dude is a lose.
Yeah. He ain't right.
I don't want to
anyway,
get sued by Brett Favre, so I'm going to just keep saying allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly.
But you know what's funny about the whole situation with the AFC is that you look at the path to the Super Bowl and it is littered with quality quarterbacks. And then, like you said, over in the NFC. And that's why I'm surprised that Aaron Rodgers is wanting to come over to the Jets, man. Why would you want to come over here in the AFC where you have the worst chances of making to the Super Bowl in the AFC? When you look on the side that he's on, really he's only got to beat like one good quarterback to get to the NFC Championship game or Super Bowl. That's it. That's why I don't understand why he wants to come over here, or why any quarterback for that matter want to come to the AFC. Like literally, if you go back in history, and I might be wrong, but if you guys do it, and you can prove me wrong, but I don't think it's ever been this many quality quarterbacks at one time.
Never.
In each division.
No. Especially on one-sided. I don't think I've ever seen it one-sided like this. But then you have 3 above-average quarterbacks in the NFC, but I've never seen the AFC this stacked with great quarterbacks. And the sad part is a lot of their careers are being wasted.
Yeah.
Because they're with bad organizations.
That's how
or they're with
cookie crumbles.
bad coaches. It's terrible. Corey says, I called it out halfway through the season. I didn't think his O-line was that bad. I said on numerous occasions he did a check down on the pressure and the O-line got beat because of it. Then he went on to say the Chiefs proved that in the playoffs. They moved CJ and Karlaftis around, which they did. Bro didn't diagnose the inside pressure, and he got hit 4 times without even seeing a blitzer coming. And that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And you know who I could attribute that to? It has nothing to do with Spags. It has everything to do with Joe Cullen. Because the day Joe Cullen stepped on that field is the day we changed the way we played football on the defensive
position
line.
Coaching is so hard to give credit to because you don't know exactly where to give credit sometimes. But I think with such a different turnaround from one season to a next and limited personnel change, I think that you have to give credit to Joe Cullen just because there was so little change and everywhere else besides him. So, I mean,
I didn't see this from Brad. He said before Mahomes got hurt, we were putting up 40 on them. Come on, JP. We may have been, but they were contending with our defense. They were still putting up points. And that's something that you have to look at. If the Jaguars, or I should say if not just the Jaguars, but Trevor Lawrence was able to move down the field and score compared to what he did the prior year against a defense that was actually not bad. I mean, we proved that. We had a pretty damn good, especially with a bunch of 5 rookies on our team, we had a pretty damn good defense. And he was still able to move up and down the field on us. So I still think he's a better quarterback than anybody's giving him credit for. And I think he's going to prove this year he's going to outplay Josh Allen. I have a feeling for sure they're definitely going to regress. I have a friend in Buffalo that's real close to that team, and they have no faith in their head coach and the players, and they have no faith in Josh Allen. That's been said numerous times by multiple players within the Buffalo organization. So I still see them regressing. I think you're going to see the Jaguars step up. They're probably going to win their division again, and they're going to be in the playoffs, and they're probably going to make a deep run. We may see them in the AFC Championship game.
Hey, call it now. Who are your AFC playoff teams for the 2023 season?
No.
Come on.
I would do it just because you're talking about AFC Championship game.
No. This your teams are going to make it into the playoffs on the AFC side.
Oh man, it's hard because of this 18-week schedule, and you just don't know. I mean, the Raiders ain't.
No.
I don't even see the Broncos might squeeze in now.
Oh, come on. No.
They might.
I'm not.
You got to have, look, man, you got to have more than one team in the playoffs.
I'm not about to sit here.
Hold
I'm
up.
not about to sit here and have an hour-long conversation about.
No, but you got to think about this. You got to have more than one team
We got to
out of
end
the
the show.
division.
That's it. We got to end it.
Man, don't make me. I'm going to mute him.
Hey, the Chiefs are going to win the West again.
Well, think about it. You can't have one team in a division make the playoffs. It's impossible.
Yeah, you can.
You really can't. Not with the way they've got it set up. You can't. You got 8 and 9 teams making the playoffs. So, or 8 and 10, or 7. I'm sorry. What is it? 7 and 10. You got losing record teams and 500 teams making the playoffs right now because of the 18-week schedule. I think the Broncos could be an 8 and 8 team. I think the Chargers. I still say it. I know this is going to make Quentin balls shrivel up more, but it's going to end up being the Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. That's how it's going to fall in our division. All right, Tommy, shit. You brought up the question. Who are you calling out for this year's AFC playoff game teams?
Man, we already know the Chiefs are going to be there, right? I think Jacksonville is going to be there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe, I don't know why I believe this because I do not like the Chargers, but I think the Chargers are going to be a wild card team this year. Don't know. I think they've been so close the last several years to kind of get over that hump. I think they're going to be in there as well. And then I also think that if you look at the East, man, if Tua stays healthy, brother, I think they're in just because they have just too many weapons. There's too many weapons.
If he stays healthy, yeah.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a good Christmas. So
yeah, the best ability is availability, right? So
he can make the club from the tub.
Yeah, and then also too, I think Cincinnati's back here again just because I don't think. Now Pickens looks good, but he's had rookie year, so. Just depending on, you got to remember, because Tomlin's a defensive coach. So don't really know how he's going to progress going into this coming season. But, I think that Cincinnati has the upper leg in their division as well. So I think that's pretty much kind of going to be your playoff picture going into it. Unless Lamar comes back. Because I think if Lamar comes back, Lamar's playing for his fully guaranteed contract. That's if he comes back. I personally think Lamar's sitting out this year. I'm just taking a shot in the dark. I really think he is.
He might.
I think hold up. Because he can heal too.
Go ahead. His injury. I agree. I don't know if it's his injury. I think he just doesn't want to play for the Ravens. And if they try to lock him in on that franchise tag and nobody else picks him up, he's going to sit out. Brad said I missed his comment about the Browns, but let me put up another comment that he has. Mahomes still hasn't played with – I'm sorry. I thought you said hasn't played a top 10 defense. I was getting ready to give you something you wouldn't have liked because we played 4 or 5 of them last year, according to the stats. But, yeah, we haven't. You're right. I mean, I think we were ranked – Philip, where were we ranked last year? I think 17th overall, maybe at the end.
Yeah,
Philip said the hammer.
Depends on what metric you do, and just because it's you either go by EPA, points given up, total yards given up, that sort of thing. It depends on what metric you work. The Chiefs were a slightly above average defense by the time the season ended.
Yeah, they just grew and grew. They started, you know what's crazy about it? They started off strong.
Yeah,
Did you guys
they were an
notice
average
that?
defense.
It was weird, though, because they started off really strong. The secondary looked good. The defensive line looked good. Of course, our linebackers, they always look good. But it was really strange that we started off really strong, and then we had that little lull, right there. I don't know, weeks, what was it, 6 to 9, maybe 6 to 10, somewhere around there. And then we just picked it up, and our defense started playing better and better and better, and everybody got acclimated. He said, that's right. That's where we ended up. There you go. Philip, thank you. Went from 27th overall to 11th overall in 2022. That's pretty damn strong given our schedule. Can't complain.
Rookie wall, man. All those rookies hit that rookie wall. You got to think, man, they – besides the 17 games, I mean, their preseason training camp and stuff, they're not that long. I mean, you take kids out of college and, they're playing what, 10, 12 game season, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you inject them into – because one thing that I think people don't take into consideration enough, they always look at the physical aspect of it. The mental grind, man, in the NFL is a different beast. These guys are just as wall – they walled out on that just as hard as they did the physical part. So
I have harped on this, Tommy. I don't know how long I have harped on this because it is something that I've witnessed. And when you can sit and witness what these guys go through, not only in preparation to practice, but to get into practice and then to go through training camp. Dude, I watched back in those days, the offense and defense hated each other with a passion in practice. They wouldn't talk to each other. Motherfuckers would be throwing and beating each other with helmets. They didn't care. And I asked Derek one time, I said, bro, why do you guys act like that? He goes, what do you mean? I said, you motherfuckers act like you all hate each other and you're like two different gangs. Just, and he said, we don't like the offense and they don't like us. We're all friends on Sunday. Yeah. I said, damn, this is some weird shit. Because, I've seen some fist fights. Dudes just throwing down, helmets flying, pads getting ripped. And I said, damn, you guys are nuts, man. He goes, that's how we prepare ourselves for Sunday. We get amped up. We look at that offense like it's the team we're playing's offense. The offense look at us, especially the offensive line, like they're playing the team we're playing Sunday. He goes, do we hang out together? Oh, hell no. He goes, do we go to dinner together? Oh, hell no. He goes, we've pissed each other off too much. He said, but on Sunday, we're all brothers in the end. And it's true. We've had a bunch of guys on this show, that were former players in the 90s that I know, and they've all said the same thing. From Tim Grunhart to JJ to Willie, everybody, they're all the same. It was just a different time back then. So now you got Mahomes taking the whole damn team out to dinner. Yeah. Hell yeah. You got Mahomes making defensive players better. Yeah. You got Mahomes on Twitter saying, man, I don't miss Colin Saunders. You didn't back in the 90s, if there was Twitter, you'd see, okay, good riddance, bitch. Because that's what you'd see. That's exactly what you would see. You wouldn't have any offensive guy all upset because they'd be happy he's gone. It's weird, but it's just part of it. Yeah, man. Mahomes changed the Chiefs. Yeah. Andy and Mahomes changed the Chiefs.
I was watching something today, and they were talking about, hey, was Yeah, Patrick Mahomes has pretty much changed the entire culture and fate of the Chiefs organization. They go, was Travis Kelsey a Hall of Fame tight end before he came? No. They was like he was good. He had Alex Smith throwing to him, and no knock on Alex. He's a really good football player, but he's like he wasn't putting up the Hall of Fame numbers. He said when Mahomes came, he became a Hall of Famer. He did the same thing with Andy Reid. He said Andy Reid was a hell of a coach, but was he a Hall of Fame coach? No, he wasn't. No Super Bowl wins. He said a whole bunch of NFC title games and one Super Bowl appearance. He's like now he has Mahomes 2 Super Bowl rings. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. So I mean, if you think about what he's done, man, for this organization, and to hear him say that this is the most inspiring thing that came out of his mouth. He said we're not done. Like he's still hungry. If you look at past quarterbacks that played this game, they get 1 or 2 Super Bowl rings. Now they're just at the final couple contracts want to get in and get out. And this guy's hungry, man. He wants to do what no one else has done in the game. I mean, he's already trained that way. But I think that he is going to do something in professional sports that we've never seen before. I truly do. And I think that at the end of the day, if he can stay healthy, and I think this is why he works so hard in the offseason, because I think he knows his only kryptonite from being the best ever is injuries. And I think if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to change he's going to change football. He's going to rewrite every record in the books, and he's going to be a once in a lifetime. When we're dead and gone, this guy's records are still going to live on. I don't think
you're still going to hear his name.
Yes.
Still going to hear his name. And that's the difference, man. I think I said it before and I'll say it again. Mahomes stays healthy. By the age of 39, he'll have 8 Super Bowls. And I think he'll surpass Brady. I think he'll have 8 Super Bowls. I really do.
I can see it, man. I'm telling you, I can see it. There's something like, you hear his dad, saying, hey, dude, you're different. But I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that he's just different in perspective of how he plays. I think his mental setup and how he approaches the game is completely outside the box of anyone that's ever played the game. And I think this is what's going to make him transpire to be the greatest. Because even you hear the conversations with Tom Brady, he's talking to Tom Brady, he's giving him this respect. You look at today's kids, they don't respect their elders, and they sure the hell don't respect their rivals. But that's not how he's wired. He's wired differently. He's kind of like an old school guy with a new school set of skills.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the one thing I will say before we end the show is that I give his mental mindset and the way he plays the game, that was his dad in baseball. I'm just telling you, I watched his dad. I played against his dad in the minors. And he was one of the most laser-focused guys I had ever seen. He was the Bo Jackson of pitchers. He was just focused, ready to do his thing, and he never stopped working, like the commercial, and never not working. That was Pat. He was laser-focused, and I think it gets a lot of that from him. He was he just watched his dad. He was at the, at the stadium or at every game pretty much with his dad. He watched what his dad did. I don't know, man. But anyway, we better end this one. It's been going on for an hour and 30 minutes. We're going to be back on tomorrow night. We're going to play this game tomorrow night that I had set up for night because everybody was sissies and didn't want to show up. We get 12, 18 people show up, and then all of a sudden we get 4 or 5. We're going to play this game tomorrow night, and we're going to have a little knowledge battle go on, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see who wins and who loses this, and we'll try to find an impartial judge. We know. Well, Quentin's pretty impartial. I mean, we could use him, but anyway, we're going to do that tomorrow night. So everybody, make sure you join in. Follow Fantasy Sports Corporation. We appreciate them for allowing us to put this show on. Make sure you check out Underdogs Fantasy. And check us out tomorrow night. Like and subscribe. Do what you got to do. But just make sure you're here because we're going to have a lot of fun. Peace out, everybody.